that concept, and so does the school building committee. But we're kind of at the mercy of the MSBA on this to see which way they let us go.
And to be fair, they're moving in this one direction, but they may swing back equally the other way. Through this whole process, there is sort of that give and take.
Right.
And it is a process, so I think we have some opportunity to demonstrate need and to continue our same conversation where we're all sharing this consensus of wanting to do something here as well, because the need is as great, if not more so, in
Right.
some of our modulars and some of the, issues that we've talked about our capital projects. So, but a lot of this is just, we have to kind of give it over to them and trust that somehow through this process we'll get some of what we need. But then they may come back to us with something that we don't approve of.
Well, we submitted statements of interest, I think, on both buildings.
Yes, we did.
Originally. And the original meeting we had with Catherine Craven, I was there, and there was absolutely positively discussion of the type of pool facility that would address the middle school as well.
Right.
Now, whether or not that starts to take a little bit different direction, that's seems to certainly be doing that.
Yes, it does.
But
and that
but at the same time, I think that what we have to do is try to sell them on the secondary school concept.
We're very involved, and we understand what the circumstances are that we have. They are not as involved. As we move forward in the process, as we move through the facilities, the feasibility study, what will happen is they will come on board to understanding more of our issues and how to address those.
Are they interested?
And
in
shame on us if that doesn't come through.
And that's not to say we're gonna get what we want
There's
either.
no guarantees in life. I've found that out the hard way.
Good.
But what we have is a lot of people who are on board with the idea that we have two schools that are in desperate need.
It would definitely be very disappointing to the townspeople that if
Sure.
the two schools aren't addressed. My question for you is, if they're heading just at the high school and we approved $1 million feasibility study, then we need to get some of that money back. Maybe it only costs us $250,000
Not necessarily.
for a high school feasibility study, but not $1 million for a single building. It sounds crazy.
That's
It's
what,
outrageous.
no, that's what they've recommended based on other
Well,
projects.
That's what they recommend, but coming from an engineering firm in a corporate world, we don't charge $1 million for a high school feasibility study.
This is a state
So-
government, and it's
Right.
not gonna work that way. I mean, I hear
Well,
what you're saying.
But we can throw some of this back at them also.
Well, we
You
have
know,
to be
it's-
careful because politically, a lot of what we're trying to achieve has been achieved by pushing at the right times with the right people, involving a broader coalition, including our state rep and senator. When
That's
Bruce
fine.
Tarr and Brad Jones
we
got
should
involved.
definitely, I mean, we should definitely be nice about it, but I feel like we're just gonna end up with a high school for $1 million on
Well,
a feasibility study.
It's a worthy concern, and I totally agree with you because we need to move forward, but I think we need to have the secondary school building committee really think about this issue, and we need to continue to follow it. I
Well,
really think that's
yeah, and
important
I
to
can
do.
say this, obviously, we're going to, we're not gonna spend $1 million, because they said we have to spend $1 million.
Right.
I mean, we're gonna spend what we determine is necessary, but again, a lot of that's out of our control. I mean, a lot of that is
But I
up
think
to.
we can push back and say, you know what, we're not paying these kind of payments to these people. I mean, we get
Well, we don't have a choice, Michael. We have to hire an OPM. We have to do, if the state tells us to hire an OPM and it's gonna cost $250,000, that's what it's
But do
gonna
we know it
cost.
costs us $150,000?
We don't have any
Or is that
say.
the
We
state
have to pay
employee
for it
that's
in the town
working as an
for
OPM?
It's really 500,000 of North Reading's
Right.
cash, and essentially, if
And
we can
500,000
spend,
bonded, right?
No, 500,000 reimbursement, hopefully.
right. So we have to just wait it out. I mean, at this point, we're at the mercy of this new system, and it is a new system. MSBA has really only been, around for 2 years, and their
Well, as we know it now,
Right.
it's only
their
around 2 years.
experience, they've had some pluses, some really big problems that have politically made it difficult for them to make decisions, and we have to follow that because we have to fit into that. I think we're gonna be all right because we have strong advocacy within town, and we have strong political support from a lot of different bases. So, but we just have to be on top of it.
But,
Totally agree.
$1 million has been appropriated, doesn't
Right.
mean we're gonna spend $1 million.
No, that was the safety number that they said to ask
No,
for.
I understand.
But we have an issue here that is different than many other towns. We have two buildings that either need to be replaced or significantly upgraded. And that's the difficulty, I think. And while we hope we can get them to look at a joint project, in the end, you know, we're gonna probably advocate for that, but we don't know what they're gonna come back with, right?
And, well, we don't, and it's a whole new process, because, as Karen pointed out, a couple of years ago, or before the moratorium, you would have gone to them and said, this is the project that we want. You know, here's the project that we're looking at, here's our plans, here's our feasibility study, we need a middle school and a high school, or a high school with, you know, centralized facilities for the middle school, and we would have said to them, this is what we want, and they would have approved it or not approved it. Now they're basically saying, okay, we're gonna work with you to let you know what you need.
Well,
and
I
what we
guess
can
I don't
afford.
understand why Kathleen can't go back tomorrow and say, okay, we understand the number for the high school, this is what we think the number for the middle school is during the feasibility, as we go through the feasibility study. This is what we think a new or joined middle school would look like for us. I don't know why that would hurt.
Well, I think what we can do tomorrow night is discuss it at the secondary school building committee meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like she's
and
being
try to-
argumentative, she's just saying, listen, you know, we do have this second building we're trying to address, we've addressed it from the beginning, these are our numbers from the middle school that you left out in your MSBA update.
We'll let the SSBC figure it out and make, this is a political decision as anything else. And if we
No,
push
we'll
too
do that.
much,
We'll put-
they'll
we'll-
figure it out.
So
Discuss
the only
that.
thing that you
We'll
could get is,
discuss that
you
tomorrow
know, we're
night,
not
and,
interested in the middle school,
yeah.
at least you get that up
Well,
front.
I don't think they're gonna tell you that.
No.
Well,
I don't think they're gonna
but
tell you
they'll
that.
respond to the email saying, thank
Yeah.
you, we'll take these numbers and
Yeah,
use them for the
but I-
feasibility study,
And
or.
that could be a complete lie. So, I mean, again, we have to tread carefully. I would rather, you know, figure out what the SSBC wants to do, and they may wanna not push as hard, and that's their charge. We
Well,
charge them to do that.
Right,
so.
but we're in the plan for the MSBA. If we anger someone, they're just not gonna cut us off. This isn't like
No, it's
high
not a
school
question of
kickball or something. We don't wanna push too
No,
hard
but there's
here
a
or
way
there.
of doing this, and it really, if it concerns you that much, call Bruce Tarr and call Brad Jones and tell them, as a school committee member, this upsets you, and
No,
voice
it's
that.
not a question of getting anybody angry or trying to, or offending anybody. That's not our concern. Our concern is basically, being on the same page with the MSBA. And I can hear what you're saying, Mike, so I think tomorrow night we'll discuss that. You know,
Okay.
the architect will be here, and we'll talk to them about whether or not, is this train on a single track now, or are we gonna look at trying to get them more information so that they can at least consider the middle school and the high school as one secondary school building project. But certainly, the statement of interest is clear that we have put both of those in.
I do too.
As far as the fee issue is concerned, Michael, I was also in the position of developing fees for feasibility studies and preliminary designs, schematic designs, and all sorts of words to describe what it is you're going to do. The magic is what's in the scope of that.
Right.
And the scope of this is well beyond what you and I might think of as schematic design. The MSBA is looking to carry it much further with the idea that they want the numbers that come out of the estimate, the estimated numbers, to be very much better, much more precise
Right, no, I understand.
than what we ordinarily might need to do. And because of that, it's cost more money to put into it. The architect's familiar with that. He knows what they're going to be looking for. And you know, if you're looking at the total cost of professional services involved, it's like that. And then here's some fraction of it. And you could, if you do less, then later on you're gonna do more. But it's that dividing line is flexible. And in this case, MSBA is saying it's gotta be at that level, or it isn't gonna accomplish what we need in order to make the commitment to North Reading to put up this much money. And they're gonna give us a hard number in the end. They're gonna say, this is how much money we're going to give you to work with. And you gotta make up the rest. And you've gotta go to town meeting and get the rest before you go ahead with the project. So it's gonna be locked in much more firmly than ordinarily you'd find. I'm paying attention to all of those things as a taxpayer and as a school committee member. But you know, I'm comfortable with where we are on it, am also comfortable with moving ahead on the high school project, which will feasibility study into being, I believe, a combined facility.
So I think,
That's what I believe is happening, and I'm pretty good at reading these.
so I think we all share that concern, and as long as the SSBC moves in that direction tomorrow night, and Jerry can give us a report at the next meeting. But we do need to keep on top of this, because this building needs to be addressed. We can't ignore it.
agree.
So, okay, great. Thanks. Carl, FY10 final budget report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. In your packet, you see a 3-page final budget report for fiscal year 2010. And I'm pleased to report that we did end the year in the black. My comments here are going to be thematically about efforts that we've already begun to make to put aside funds for FY12. There are certain legal ways one can do that, and as we look through this final report, I'll point out how we did that. So if you go to the middle page, which summarizes expenses, I think it's always appropriate to try to comment on those areas that were at variance with the original budget. And you can do that by looking at the right-hand column called balance. And when you see a larger variance, or a number that's not close to zero, it represents something that happened during the year that we didn't know about when we created our budget. And as you go down there, you'll see, I'll comment on a couple of the higher ones. The school committee superintendent line was $9,000 over budget. As you know, when we created the FY10 budget, we weren't aware of the leadership changes that were going to take place, so we had to expend funds for that purpose. Moving down, under regular ed transportation, you can see we were over $30,000 in the red on that line. And that was because early in the school year, we had homeless students that we were who enrolled in North Reading Public Schools. And by statute, we're required to provide transportation to homeless students. And oftentimes that's expensive, because the homeless students are often staying in places like Saugus or places that aren't so close to North Reading. So we had to absorb that expense there. Moving down a little bit farther on that same page, you see tuition, and you'll see it looks as though we were very much in the red, actually $73,000 worth. And that's the first example of a mechanism that we're using to try to set aside funds for future years. We're allowed by MJL to prepay special education tuitions for the first quarter of the following school year. And when we get to the salary page, you'll see that what we did as we closed the fiscal year was take some of our unspent dollars and directed them towards prepaying some tuitions for the first quarter of the year. By doing that, it helps you out in FY11. So in other words, we're using FY10 money to prepay some FY11 tuitions, and the hope is, if we don't have anything that is unusual in FY11, such as unilateral placements or other unusual circumstances, we'll continue to carry forward these prepayments in such a way as to have these funds available for FY12. So that's kind of the mechanism.
Brilliant,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. But it's, I was very careful to check with the Department of Revenue as well as our own local finance director to ensure that we were fully in touch with the law on this. So, so as you can see, about $75,000 was prepaid. If you were to go to the next page, which is the salary summary for FY10, once again, following that model of looking down the balance line to see what happened that might have been unusual that year, the one that jumps out at you is differentials. It shows about a $50,000 positive balance, and those are funds that we are also carrying over in anticipation of completing our curriculum leadership negotiations for FY11. So those funds look like they are in excess, but in effect, they're being reserved for future